Okay, let's talk. Hi, beautiful people. My name is Soma, and today we're going to be talking about how to find your personal style. People often ask me, especially since I started posting more about my fashion journey and my outfits on TikTok, about how I developed my personal style, how I shop, where I shop, how I came into being as I am, I guess, as a fashion person. I guess I'm a fashion person now. I hope I can do this topic justice in the little time that I have, because I have somewhere to be and I'm already late. It's important for me to start off this video by talking about how the word fashion and style are often used interchangeably, like they're synonymous, whereas they're not. Today we're going to be talking about the difference between fashion and style, why cultivating your taste matters, and how your wardrobe is a direct reflection of who you are. I think what is fashion is a good place to start. Fashion is external. Fashion is what you see on the runways, it's what's trending, it's what's in, it's what's socially acceptable to wear right now. For instance, if you wore skinny jeans in 2016, you'd be considered fashionable. If you wore skinny jeans right now, you most likely wouldn't be considered fashionable because skinny jeans are not in anymore and nobody's really wearing them. And it operates on a cycle. So it's fashionable today, it's not fashionable tomorrow. That's basically how fashion works. So if you're a fashionable person, you're kind of always on trend because fashion is basically a trend thing. And style is a whole other conversation. It's something entirely different. Style is internal. Style has a lot to do with the way you choose to personally present yourself to the world. It has nothing to do with what the world is saying is in and what's not in and what's fashionable and what's not fashionable. It has a lot to do with what the different things that you wear and how you choose to wear them represent and mean for you as a person. It's really about what feels true to you, and it's like your own personal visual language. The best way that I can put it is that your style speaks for you before you get a chance to open your mouth. So before you've said anything, often your style has spoken for you. Okay, so this is me in edit, maybe 6 days after shooting, and I'm reading an article called Fashion versus Style. As always, I will link the article in the description below, but I'm reading an article called Fashion versus Style. I just want to read out more differences that I feel are well articulated in this article. The writer is quoting Lillian Fallon from The Theology of Style, and it says, by construing fashion and style, we lose the meaning, purpose, and significance of both. It is especially important to note the significance of personal style because it is a sign of being made in the image of God. So I thought that was an interesting quote to start off with. Let's just off the bat. Then by the time I read everything in the article, which is a very extensive article, by the way, everybody, you guys have to actually go and read it. The writer explored so many theological claims and assertions and analogies. Through the course of the article, another difference between fashion versus style is given. This is my favorite. It says, if fashion is eternally driven and motivated, style is its mirror opposite. Style refers to your signature, a display of your personal brand. It is meant to showcase your beliefs, your understanding of aesthetics, and be your contribution to the beauty in the world. When a stylish person is fashionable, it's likely that the fashion just happened to fit into their style. Style is a risk. It is the opposite of an insecure conformity. It can single you out as someone who rejects or disregards both the values and consensus of the fashion industry. It is an act of self-confidence to rely on your own understanding of what is true, beautiful, and good. When that understanding is properly formed and based on solid ground, you don't need to chase after what others are doing or wearing. So reading that was kind of a treat for me today because I love when a concept that I think I've considered through so many different lenses just seems to broaden because I'm reading it through another lens and I'm like, oh, I didn't consider it that way. So it was such a fun read. And then it just kind of got me thinking about another article that I read a couple days ago about being intentional about the way you dress. And the lady who wrote the article had basically been doing an experiment on herself for the longest time about the way she's treated when she's dressed or when she's looking a different kind of way. So she did an experiment when she had straight hair versus curly hair versus when she's wearing a pantsuit to work or a regular suit or just a blouse and a pair of pants. Like, she basically was just always taking note of the way she was treated by both men and women and superiors and her colleagues in the office whenever she was dressed or looking a different kind of way. And I was like, okay, that takes a certain kind of dedication, because I think she did that for a year, 2 years maybe, I don't know, but like she was dedicated. Her article is called Style is a Strategy, and it's a lot more playful and lighthearted in terms of the pace and the tone than this other article we read, Style versus Fashion. But it is so insightful and also so interesting that someone thinks that way. But she dropped a lot of gems I think you need to hear. She was basically describing how getting dressed is just a compilation of so many different choices she has to make, all very intentionally, to see how it's going to affect the way people treat her. So now she's at the final stage and she's just like, then the mirror, hair up or down, straight or curly, glasses or contacts. By the time I walk out the door, I have made a dozen decisions. None of them are accidental. Credibility, competence, warmth, authority, all of it begins assembling in someone else's mind the moment you walk into the room. wrong. It's just human nature, and once you accept it, something shifts. Because if first impressions are inevitable, then what you wear is a decision with real consequences. Even the I don't care about fashion wardrobe is a conscious style decision. Opting out is still a choice. I was like, and like enough said, throughout the rest of the work, she goes on to talk about how even before you give your first handshake or your first sentence lands, that they have already judged you. Society has already decided what they want to decide to some extent, or at least a first impression. And your style is something that you can control and use to your benefit. So for her, that looks like climbing the corporate ladder. And using your style as a means to get to that end is something I didn't consider, but I found interesting. I will link it in the description and you guys read it. And if you can come back and let's talk about it, I would actually love that. Okay, and the silent part that nobody really tells you about finding your style is you kind of have to figure out who you are, and then from there jump into figuring out who you are within the context of fashion and what fashion is and means to you. And not only is it personal, it takes time. And not only does it take time, it takes curiosity. Your style deepens in direct proportion to how much you know about yourself and how much you know about the world. So the more you explore themes like art and literature and history and architecture and so many other things that are happening in the world, the deeper your sense of understanding of yourself is, and thus the deeper it is when you express yourself. And for the most part, the richer your sense of understanding of fashion becomes, because all the fashion designers and stylists and artists that you see are referencing something. This is me in edit again. I bet you a month later. I know, not a good look for me, but I had to show you guys this story. Yesterday was the Met Gala. I forget the theme. However, my friend made a story and she says, knowing where Madonna got her inspo made me understand the fit more. And she ate. That ties into what I'm essentially saying about how your understanding and your knowledge of different things come together to help you see things in the fashion world deeper. Because when you can understand what someone is referencing, when you can understand their inspiration, it makes you appreciate the work, the clothes, the design, the execution a bit better. They're referencing time periods, they're referencing political movement, they're referencing books, they're referencing artists, they're referencing ways of thinking, they're referencing so many different types of things that you're ultimately missing out on because you're looking at fashion or clothes as just clothes. I saw a tweet that said, the more you're into fashion, the more you realize how it's not even about fashion. And that is so true. Like, that is so true. It's about everything else and how everything else leaves a mark on you and how that mark kind of manifests into the way you express yourself moving forward. I'm going to read something from a journal entry I wrote maybe 2 months ago when I was just basically trying to reconcile my place in my new interests and where that leaves my old interest and my form of self-expression. So I said, to know yourself is to evolve, and to evolve is to come face to face with things that you didn't think you would ever like but now do. What happens with the things that you did like and now don't? But I've learned that to live life, especially as someone as expressive as I am, is to be impressionable, to allow things leave their mark, to allow things have their home in me, to allow things leave an impression on me, and that's fine. To allow those impressions pour through me and into the things that I do is a big part of life. And yeah, I'm always journaling stuff and figuring things out. It made me realize that you actually can't have style if you are not impressionable, if you don't let things and people that you come across leave their mark on you. And that's why it's important to do other stuff outside of fashion. So if you have no idea about art, you'll never understand why somebody pairs earthy tones with like structured silhouettes as a nod to Bauhaus design. Or if you're not into history, you'll always think that certain vintage aesthetics just look old and not intentional. The thing is, stylish people, designers are often referencing something, and the more well-read you are and the more exposed you are and the more interested you are in things, the more you see these things and can appreciate them more. Oh, and this is a wonderful segue into the importance of passion and the importance of having taste. You can't have style if you don't have taste. Passion matters a lot in fashion because whatever you're interested in ultimately feeds and cultivates your taste. It's a big mistake to think that taste is innate. Taste is cultivated through time, through experience, through exposure, through travel. There's so much that goes into cultivating your taste, and your taste is kind of what separates you from everybody else, because your taste decides your style and your style is you. As you travel through life and you collect experiences, collect knowledge, you deepen your taste, and that ultimately influences your style. That is exactly why people that are stylish, their outfits always seem timeless, because it's not chasing trends, it's evolving and growing with them. You see a picture of a stylish person from any year and the fit looks good. It's because they're not chasing any trend. Their outfit is growing as much as they are growing as a person, and you can see their personality shine through at every period.
Style's how you do things. Style is the how. Style is the why. It's not always the what. When it's a bold, honest, internal expression that has burst out of you, that's style. Style is, you know, it's the way you do. My style is just how I wear my insides on my outside.
Style is a conversation, not with the world, but with yourself. It's an ongoing question of who am I? What do I value? What am I trying to say? And it's important to have these questions, even questions like, what do I like? What are my priorities in life? The beautiful thing is that you don't have to feel confined to a box, because as you grow as a person, your fashion grows with you. The way you used to dress at 22 is not the way you're going to dress at 35, and that's okay. It doesn't mean that you used to dress bad at any point. It just means that you're evolving and you're changing. If you haven't figured out your personal style yet, I just think that that means that you need to fully discover who you are, and I don't think that you should be embarrassed about that or feel bad about that. Instead, you should fully lean into that and lean into the curiosity and lean into the unknown and have as much fun as you can figuring out who you are. As someone who is currently in the process of always trying to figure myself out all the time, I can tell you that it's fun. I feel like it's interesting. I feel like it keeps me open-minded. It keeps me lighthearted. It keeps me, you know, operating on a level where everything seems possible, and I feel like that's a really good place to be. Okay, so let's get practical, because I know some of you are listening to this and are like, okay, this all sounds good in theory, but how do I do what I need to do? I'm going to wear my glasses as well, because I like to wear my glasses whenever I'm serious. Okay, I'm also tired of cosplaying somebody that can't see. I can't. I also mentioned I have somewhere to be. Let's see if I can get through this in 10 minutes. Step 1 to finding your personal style is trial and error. I know people say this online a lot, but I can't overemphasize how important this is. Sometimes you're going to come face to face with an outfit that you made up in your mind and you're like, oh wow, I'd love to wear this, but I don't know if it goes. I don't know how people are going to take it. I don't know if it's going to be palatable enough, especially if you live in a place where people are more conservative with their dressing. It's definitely worth the second to think about, oh, do I want to do this? Do I want to do this? But the advice I'm going to give is just do it. Literally just do it. Try that unexpected combination, wear that bold outfit, try that color combo that you didn't think would make sense. You're not going to get it right every time. And I think that there's so much beauty in that. There was a time that my mom used to live in fear of my next outfit. I'm talking about, we'll be going to church and she would sit in the living room waiting like, oh my goodness, please. I pray that Summer is not gonna disgrace me today. And I'll come out. Sometimes I disgrace her, sometimes I please her. It happens. But then the more you have experiences where you're like, okay, this outfit was a miss, or this outfit didn't work for me, the closer you get to saying to yourself, ooh, this outfit is so me. Like, you never really get to a point where you just know what works for you. You actually have to keep trying different things, and that looks like failing sometimes, and there's joy in that. I always notice that people are scared to be seen trying, and people are scared to not have things work out when they wanted to, but there's beauty in that. And honestly, with fashion, I'm so happy that there's no way to go through without trying. You literally cannot be stylish if you don't put in the work to discover stuff. You discover that, okay, at the end of the day, I don't think I like minimalism as much as I thought I did, or when I wore this outfit, I didn't feel confident. I realized I feel more confident like this. You will never know what you feel confident in and what you're comfortable and what works for you if you don't try. The second practical step towards developing your style is to build your confidence, and quietly. I'm saying that you don't need to announce to the whole world, hey, I'm going on a style journey. When you announce stuff like this, or anything really, you're open to criticism and people's opinions. And at a stage like this, where you're trying to develop your personal style and you're trying to figure out who you are, it's important that there's a filter on what people are saying to you about what you're doing. Professional advice, like the advice of a stylist or a friend with taste, you can definitely always consider that, but it's always important to put that through the filter of your own guts, because people are often going to advise you from the perspective of where they think that you should be going, and not necessarily where you want to go. And nobody knows where you want to go other than you. So it's important to take things with a grain of salt and be selective about the people who you even take advice from. I feel like that applies to many things in life, but since we're talking about fashion and we're talking about style, we can definitely just say, okay, when you're talking about your style choices and your options and your preferences, it's important that the amount of people that you allow influence you is little. This third point kind of ties into the first about trial and error, and that's experiment with color, experiments with silhouettes, experiments with so much. Of course, go for that bold bag and that bold color, but I think it's also important to experiment with styling and combinations of stuff. For example, I know that people wear dresses with jeans. That's something I personally haven't done, but it's something I am not close off to, just for the fact that I don't know what could be on this other side of me trying. Could be me liking it, could be me not liking it, but it's worth trying. Because style isn't just about the item, it's about how the things work together on your body and in your life. So it's really important to try shapes and styles and colors and combinations that you never thought you would. A good example of how this works really well was that I never thought that I would be the person that would be into balloon skirts. And it's interesting that I like them because I had people tell me when I first started wearing them that, oh, if you have like a curvy figure, balloon skirts can kind of make that exaggerated and not be as flattering on you. I kind of sat with that for a while and I processed whether that was something I wanted to internalize and absorb, and I realized I didn't. So I didn't, and I've just been wearing them and I love them. I have so many now and I love them. I wouldn't have thought that I would, but I do, and I wouldn't have known if I didn't wear it that first time and love it. So I would say always experiment. You don't know everything, and for the most part you don't know anything, so just experiment and see. Next, I would say start with what you already love and kind of build up from there. You don't have to throw out everything in your closet and start from scratch. The things that you have now are already telling of the kind of things that you like, and the things that you reach for are already telling you the kind of things that you're interested in. So it's important that you kind of assess what that is and then layer and build from there intentionally with the new things you're interested in. And that's a good way to form your style. Like, you don't have to go on one shopping spree and buy new random clothes and say, okay, yeah, now I have my own new style. It doesn't work that way. I want to say I wish it did, but I'm so glad it doesn't, because you have to put in the work to develop your style by developing yourself, and you are already existing with parts of yourself that you know and you love and you like. So clearing out your closet won't make any sense if we're following that line of thinking. Okay, this next point isn't something that I did personally. However, I've spoken to people that have great taste and are really stylish, and they've said that they've done this, so I'm going to share this with you. And that is to create a visual reference point. That kind of looks like journaling or like Pinterest or Instagram, but essentially saving things that speak to you. And you might not even understand why they speak to you at the time that you save them, and that's fine. Over time, you will come to draw lines and parallels and make connections and recognize patterns in certain things that you've been saving. Could be, oh, I realize I like the color green, or oh, I realize I really like oversized fits, or the Scandinavian aesthetic really appeals to me. And you wouldn't have known that if you were not collecting all these things and saving them and seeing them with your eyes and being like, oh, this really is me, this represents me and what I'm trying to say. If you see that as something that might work for you, that's definitely something that you should try and go into and discover and explore. And I feel like that would work. Even though I didn't do that, I can see that working, so definitely give that a try. My favorite step, and something that I've said so many times in this video, is let your interests dress you. Are you obsessed with a particular period of history, or are you obsessed with a certain movement, a certain city, a certain niche, a certain subculture? If you are, it's so cool and so fun to let those interests inform your wardrobe. The most interesting dressers and the most tasteful people are those that their outfits tell a story of who they are or what they're interested in. So I'm just gonna say that you should wear your obsessions intentionally, thoughtfully, and fearlessly. It's fun. I had an entanglement with a guy that was really, really Pan-African. I already considered myself as someone that was radicalized when it comes to like the African movement anyway, but I felt like that kind of ignited more in me, and that did manifest in the way that I dress, because it affected my ethos as a person, and ultimately that affected my ethos while shopping, and that ultimately affected the kind of things I reached out for. And I began to see my interests and who I am manifest in my fashion. And you can't borrow that, you can't copy that, you can't steal that. You can only be interested in things and let them affect you and shape you the way that they do. Last advice I'll give is to give it time. Style is not a destination, it's evolution. It's the process of becoming. Like, you're not just gonna close your eyes and then arrive at this perfectly aesthetic, fixed version of yourself. It doesn't work that way. The point is to keep growing into yourself, and as you learn more, as you travel more, as you experience more, as you explore more, your style will naturally deepen and refine. You just have to trust the process. So my challenge to you today is, before you go shopping, go exploring. Can you read a book, man? Read a book outside of your comfort zone. Study a time period. Ask a stranger questions. Like, do random stuff. Study a period of history that fascinates you. Watch a movie from a different culture. When you do all this, you start to see how they show up in the way that you see yourself, and ultimately in the way that you dress. Because style comes from authenticity, and authenticity can only come from knowing yourself. So yeah, that brings us to the end of the video. I would love to know in the comments the things that you're passionate about and that ultimately influence your style and your understanding of fashion and your world in it. Let me know. Okay, bye.